Welcome back to Music Theory Logic. Andrew here. A question I get a lot of times is from somebody who maybe understands basic chord progressions, popular songs, chord progressions that stay in one key, and they ask me, well, how do I take that the next level? What's the next step? How do I write more complicated chord progressions? And I'm going to show you that today. So let's go ahead into the logic session. Here is a session I have. I labeled it Jazzy Chords. This chord progression is pretty jazzy. Some of the things that make it feel jazzy are the types of harmonies. So we hear a lot of major sevenths, minor sevenths, dominant sevenths. I once had a guitar teacher that said you can make any chord progression feel a lot more jazzy by just playing the seventh version. So that's one element, but there's more, don't worry. Another thing that makes a chord progression feel jazzy or quite different is if that chord progression changes keys. So if not all of the chords that we find are from the same scale, that's going to sound kind of strange to our ears, and that's weirdness we associate a lot with the way jazz music sounds. And then there's a lot of subgenres of electronic music like rhythm and blues, R&B, or like acid jazz, acid hip-hop beats. A lot of like Kendrick Lamar stuff has this kind of complicated harmony sound. So without me talking anymore, let's just hear what's going on. I have a little drum loop in the background. Then it starts over. All right, cool. So a couple basic ideas with this. If you take a chord and you don't think about scales at all, and you just take that chord, copy it, move it around, you could go to another chord. You could write a melody like one note at a time and not pay attention to scales, play chromatic tones, and then you could try building chords off of that. All of that stuff will result in something that feels pretty jazzy like that. Let me explain what's going on in this piece of music a little bit more. So this first chord's an A major 7. We then get an F major 7. Instantly, that's kind of strange because those two chords aren't in the same key. It would be an A minor 7th in the key of F major, and it would be an F sharp minor 7th in the key of A major. So these don't come from the same key. All right, this middle chord, you can think of it as a passing tone because the next chord we get is an E7. So the first and the third chord are in the same scale. This E7 is really specific to the key of A major that we call the dominant. Then we start changing keys. We go to a G major 7. G major 7 again isn't in the key of E major or A major. We then play a D major 7. That F sharp that we hear in the D major 7 is very different than the F natural we hear in that second chord. So again, hearing those two notes that are right next to each other in the same piece of music is kind of weird. And again, that results in chord progressions like this with a little bit more dissonance. Now, one way you could also write this is you could take 3 chords in a row. You could grab them all, copy them starting on a different note. So like this. That's not exactly what I did. It's kind of a similar principle where we get parallel harmonic motion. That's a fancy way of saying the chords change keys, but it's doing the same chord progression in each relative key. All right, moving along, after this D major 7, we come to an F sharp minor 7 over A. So this right here all of a sudden is, we do find that in the original key. This F sharp minor chord kind of is the most constant harmony that you hear, so I used that chord at the very end to send us back to where we started. After that F sharp minor over A, we come back to a D major 7 down to basically a B minor chord, followed by an F sharp minor 7. So So that same harmony we heard before, only it's not inverted. All right, then we get an interesting chord. So this right here is an A major 9. So a major 9, in my opinion, is even more complicated than a major 7. Once again, these complicated harmonies or chords we find in a lot of these genres based around jazz music. So using them is super helpful. I walk up. This is in key, just playing a B. That's also the 9 that we were already playing in the chord. Then we come up to an E minor. It's basically doing inversion via the left hand. So E down to B, back to E. And then finally we get this F sharp minor chord. Once again, this F sharp minor chord we do find in the key of A major. A major is actually the relative major of F sharp minor. So F sharp minor and A major have the same notes. So if I were writing melody on top of this, I would kind of be thinking in the key of F sharp minor as a starting point. Cool. Let's now that I told you all the chords, let's listen to this one more time. Let's take off the high pass on this. Starting over. So one of the other really cool things about these chord progressions are how we then write melodies to them, or if this is for a lyricist, how we write lyrics. Because we don't have the same thing repeating every 4 measures, and we get different things that repeat, we can create like multiple sort of motifs, fancy way of saying, multiple different ideas for each of these different sections. And we can kind of repeat those ideas or develop them as the song goes on. So if you're curious about seeing how we'd write a melody to this, let me know in the comments. Happy to do that. But once again, understanding the types of chords we have in music, understanding chord progressions from a specific scale, both of those are really helpful when you get onto writing more complicated chords. The real idea is that there are no rules. You don't have to stay in key. You can do things out of key. When you move out of key, it's going to be noticeable to our ears, and that's going to create a more sophisticated sound, one that we associate with jazz music. So hopefully you found that helpful. If you did, you would help me out a lot by subscribing to the channel. Once again, my name's Andrew. This is Music Theory Logic, and my goal is to show you a lot of different information that will help those of you out there making all sorts of different kinds of music. So go make some complicated chord progressions, and I will see you next time. Cheers.